for January 13th. We'll start with a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
Chair Lewis.
Yes.
We have quorum. Thank you.
All right, board members. Ted Hamilton role, project planner, here covering for Sebastian Herrick's today. Welcome to the first meeting of 2025, and I'd like to kick this meeting off with the election of chair and vice chair. How this will work is any board member may nominate a fellow board member or even themselves to be chair, and then we'll take a roll call vote on that nomination, and then we'll do the same process for the election of vice chair. With that, are there any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Jennifer Lewis for chair.
I'd like to nominate Jennifer Lewis for chair as well.
I'd like to nominate Jennifer Lewis for chair as well.
I think we all need one nomination.
You can second it if you'd like.
Do we have a second on that nomination?
I'll second the nomination.
All right, let's take a roll call vote.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
Chair Lewis.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Congratulations, Chair Lewis. And with that, are there any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Board Member Sherry.
I'll second that nomination.
Yes.
All right, let's take a roll call.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next on the agenda is appointment of consent review. Our board is a little bit different, but we'll just be reviewing the calendar that's printed out in front of you. Anything else that we need to?
Thank you, Chair Lewis. We should take a roll call vote just to approve it.
Okay.
I will note a small error on this. The full board dates are a little bit off, but the rotation itself, I think, is correct. So we'll send out a revised schedule with the updated full board dates.
And I'll just add for board members that as things come up, we can adjust these. You're not
Yeah.
voting that this is the only option, so. But I'll move to approve the consent calendar for the year.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Next is public comment. This is for any general public comment for the board, not for any agendized item.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for general public comment. However, if anyone wishes to make a general public comment, they are welcome to do so. Please fill out a slip and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will move on to virtual comment. And at this time, I do not have any hands raised for virtual general public comment. And we did not receive any written correspondence for general public comment. So I thought I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the minutes from the full board meeting on December 2nd. I did review these minutes. I thought, there were a few typos, but otherwise I didn't see any content changes. Okay. Then I'll move to approve the minutes from the full board meeting on December 2nd.
Second.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Abstain.
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next is approval of the minutes from the consent meetings on December 2nd. Was Board Member Sherry,
I'll make a motion for approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Gaffidy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Abstain.
Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
Next is approval of the minutes from the consent calendar on December 9th.
I have one comment on item C, number 2. Can we eliminate at the end of the sentence, and the neighborhood? The deck to be appropriate and to align with the architectural style of the house. It doesn't need to be neighborhood. That's extra. I think if there's no other.
You'll approve of the.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent meeting of December 9th
I'll second.
minutes.
Yes.
Board Member Gaffidy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Abstain.
Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, next is ratification of the action taken on the consent calendar for both January 6th and January 13th. And Ted, normally Sebastian will just read through these.
Chair Lewis, I have the consent actions for the 13th up, but struggling to find the 6th. Give me a second.
Oh, those are here on our agenda, so that's
Oh,
fine.
Thank you. Sorry, it's been a while.
No, that's okay.
It's a new thing, too.
All right. Just need today's. That's all. All right, thanks for your patience there. The January 6th consent calendar is as follows. Item 1, 84 La Vista Grande received project design approval and final approval. Item 2, 1740 Overlook Lane received project design approval and final approval with a condition. Item 3, 505 West Mountain Drive received project design approval and final approval with conditions. Item 4, 1562 La Vista del Oceano received project design approval. And that concludes January 6th.
We'll do both together.
Great. For January 13th, the actions were item A, 303 Cooper Road received project design approval and final approval with a condition. Item B, 2503 Medcliff Road received project design approval and final approval with a condition. Item C, 318 Oceano Avenue received review after final. Item D, 1260 Mountain View Road was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer. And item E, 1535 Live Oak Lane received project design approval.
Okay, perfect. I move to ratify the action taken on the consent calendar for January 6th and January 13th.
Second.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Gaffidy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Abstain.
Board Member Mosley,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, perfect. Next on the agenda are announcements and future agenda items. I'd like to announce our newest board member, Board Member Richards. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Any other announcements from staff?
Just a couple of brief ones. Yes, really like to congratulate and welcome Christopher Richards as a new member on the SFDB. Really exciting to have a fifth member finally after several months of only having four. So we're happy you're here and look forward to your service. The other announcement is that item 5 on today's agenda, which is 20 Abigail Lane, has been postponed indefinitely. So if you're here or watching the meeting to hear that item, that will not be heard today. We will have a new agenda come out with that item at a later date. I think that's all I've got for now. Thanks.
All right, we'll start with our first item. This is a continued item here for project design approval. 30 Augusta Lane, proposal for a 1,701 square foot single-story addition, new windows, doors, roof, colors, and materials. Walls, paving, and landscaping are also proposed. The total 3,910 square feet on a 16,553 square foot lot is 89% of the maximum guideline floor area ratio. Oak trees on site are to remain. The project was last heard on December 2nd. So if the applicant team can come up. Hello.
Hi.
Sign into this again.
So you'll have 15 minutes to present. I believe up on the screen they'll have both your drawings for today, but also the drawings from previous meeting on December 2nd. And Ted, if we could also have the minutes from the previous meeting. Okay. And what we might do is switch between them just so that you can reference any comments made previously as a part of your presentation.
Sure.
Okay. They might be at the very bottom.
I think so.
In ours, they were all together.
But the previous plans would be really, is that in there somewhere? Because it's just one tab. And since we can access them, I just think it'd be really helpful.
Yeah, no, I
The
agree.
previous plans, I don't think are on that screen, but I'll have them on
But you'd
here.
be able to share
Yeah.
on yours later, okay. So on the large screen, Ted has up the previous minutes. And so we might take a look at them and then switch it over just because they're not on the same screen. We go down a little bit. So the board was in support of the scale and recommended studying the neighborhood compatibility. We asked for precedent examples of any mid-century modern residences and/or changes of style within the cul-de-sacs. And we specifically listed the area within the cul-de-sacs. The board was trying to find any examples of deviations within these small cul-de-sac neighborhoods to set the precedent that that's allowable. The board was open to the design of the rear elevation being less specific and matching the architectural style of the neighborhood because it's so screened from the view. The board wanted to see front yard landscaping plan and any proposed exterior lighting. The board wanted to see a material palette plan and how it showed compatibility with the neighborhood. The board wanted to see any metal roof examples within the neighborhood. And if you guys decided to stay with the mid-century style, that the clear story window could be approvable, but the wall in front needed to be lowered. Let's see. The board also recommended studying other site wall examples in the neighborhood. So there we go. So I think we can switch over screens now, and you'll have your time if you can make sure your mics are on and you all state your name for the record.
My name is Ben Baruchim. My name is Ben Baruchim. I'm the project architect.
I'm Dylan Harmon, the project manager.
Thank you. Amy Peer, the homeowner.
So thank you all again for your time both on December 2nd and today reviewing this, and nice to meet you, Board Member Richards. So we just wanted to jump into our comments from last time. We have our rendering here just to refresh you guys on the project. And firstly, wanted to introduce the topic of aesthetic appropriateness in the neighborhood. So as the board had recommended last time, we studied two concepts, both the walkable neighborhood within a quarter-mile radius of the project and some cul-de-sacs in the area. So I just wanted to start with the walkable neighborhood. If you see the top right corner of this image has that quarter-mile radius selected, and then kind of a keynote for some of these projects and where they're located in relation to our project, which is the X right in the middle here. So these first couple pages are just kind of showing these proximities. I'll walk through pretty slowly.
It would be helpful in those proximities if you actually call out what's near. So I don't know if that's now or later.
Sorry, near, like how close it is to our property, or? Okay, sure. I think I'll go through these one by one, and then we can go back and see how close they are. So we just kind of broke them down into a little bit larger of images, first showing kind of an outlier for the neighborhood with this A-frame roof style. We have something pretty close to ours with the flat roof, some clerestory windows, and then lower, a little bit more privacy for this house. We have a project, another kind of similar project, more open toward the rear yard, flat roof, clerestory windows. This is located on 820 Summit Road. Another outlier page from the neighborhood, some that are quite different in style than what we would typically expect to see here. Here's another example, one of a standing seam metal roof, and also of this kind of property wall that has the clerestories above. Even on the second story, I think there's only 3 windows on the first story of this house that face the street. Another example of kind of a more mid-century style and a little bit more privacy facing the street as well. One more mid-century. Another standing seam metal roof. Another standing seam metal roof. And this one we also just wanted to point out, it isn't within a cul-de-sac, but it was directly visible from the Google Street View of a cul-de-sac. So we did feel like it was kind of, it was both in the walkable neighborhood, but also, you know, very visible from these cul-de-sacs. Here's a very modern house, a similar level of privacy in the front with more open in the back. Another house, this was in one of the cul-de-sacs, and just kind of more of a similar style to what we're proposing. This was a bit of an outlier from the neighborhood. Another more modern style. Another more modern style with a standing seam roof. Another modern style with a standing seam roof. This project we wanted to just bring to your attention because of the abundance of privacy for this house. They do have a big wall spanning the front, one window that appears to be covered, and then a completely opaque door. Here's another house that's in one of the cul-de-sacs that we'll get to shortly, but just wanted to point out the flat roof and how the style is just a bit different from those around it. This is also in that same cul-de-sac. It has a standing seam roof in its backyard that we pulled from a real estate photo, and is also, you know, kind of like a craftsman house that is not typical for the area. Here we have another standing seam roof. And then lastly, this is a view from Google, and we have kind of a zoom in from a street view as well, showing a standing seam roof. And then just wanted to jump into these cul-de-sacs. We have another key in this corner here. This kind of orange line here is showing Alston and its boundaries on Eucalyptus Hill and Summit. So we've gone through these little white lines are the cul-de-sacs that we wanted to highlight. And you can see on each page, we've highlighted in orange some of the outliers from the rest of the houses on that cul-de-sac. So I'll just go through these slowly. This is Alston Place, where we assumed most of the houses were kind of a Spanish style with tile roofs. And then we had some outliers here as well. We have Deer Path Road. As I had mentioned, here's that very modern house that was visible from the street. And a more modern mid-century house as an outlier I can zoom in on.
That was a good example, actually, of that last one. I think was a good example of the clear story and this privacy wall kind of breaking the facade, and you know, they're kind of achieving the same thing we are, just in a different articulation.
This is Norman Lane. We have one outlier that's more of a Spanish style. Alston Lane, we brought up these two images in the larger scale images, but just different styles from the rest in the cul-de-sac. This is Summit Lane. And I can zoom in. These are more Spanish style homes, and then just kind of an outlier. Remedo Road. These were kind of a bunch of different styles. And then I'm just going to go right back to our drawing set quickly. So we've prepared a rendering basically showing the street view from the cul-de-sac of the original house on top of our proposed version. We understand the concern for maintaining character in the community, but given that we're keeping the front massing very similar to the original, not adding any extensive second story addition, our roof line and roof pitch are not changing. We don't feel these changes are significant enough to constitute a major change of character here. So the next point that we wanted to jump to was to provide a landscape plan. We're showing it a little bit rendered here, but let's jump to the actual landscape plan itself. Here we go. So we've worked with a landscape architect to incorporate some drought-tolerant landscaping in the front yard. We use these plans very strategically to soften the look of the house without proposing so much planting that our property would start to stand out from the minimal landscaping seen throughout the rest of the cul-de-sac. We've since pared this down even a little bit more. We have an updated rendering that we can share with you, but could also formally share that in the future. And then the last comment that we wanted to address was lowering the height of the site walls. So we've studied 6-foot tall, 7-foot tall, and 8-foot tall site wall options for this project, and ultimately felt that the 8-foot wall would work best for the owner's needs. Here are those studies. This is the 6-foot, this is the 7-foot. And just given the openness of the facade behind the wall, we felt that it would provide more privacy. But we did want to address this by adding sufficient landscaping in front. We have a planter box that you can see in front of this wall that breaks it up into a 2-foot terraced wall above a 6-foot wall behind it. So that way we've proposed 4 to 5 foot tall plants to mostly cover this wall. Only 1 to 2 feet of it would show.
We also want to point out that the walls that were in discussion, this wall to the left is actually part of the house. This wall jutting out from the entry is the most proud element of the front facade. So it's a wall, it's part of the house that jets out to kind of greet the user as they enter the house. And then this wall that we're calling a site wall is really almost in line with the eve of the house and recessed behind these other elements. And so looking at this rendering, it's meant to read as part of the house. And what this wall is doing is it's enclosing a otherwise floor-to-ceiling glass enclosure around the living room so that we can let light and vegetation into that room without sacrificing our client's privacy. And so we've also taken that wall and kind of added some louvers in between these two elements. But again, this wall is screened behind landscaping, this lower planter, and it's even further recessed than these other two elements on the facade. So our goal with the wall was really to have it read as part of the house and not a freestanding structure. That concludes our responses to our comments. If there's any questions you have or any discussions you'd like to have, we'd love to entertain them.
All right, thank you. We'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do have a slip from a Mr. John Vertriek. If you could please approach the podium, you will have 2 minutes to speak.
If you wouldn't mind sharing your address as a part of your public comment in relation.
My name is John Verdiak. I'm an architect. I live at 5 Augusta Lane, which is up the street, just on the left side as you come down. So anyway, I was glad to see that many of the points that I wanted to address have already been addressed, which I appreciate that. I think that the architecture is excellent. It's just, the problem is, you know, the size, bulk, and scale is fine. It's the same, you know, roof shape and garage shape that was there before. Hello. Anyway, it's the neighborhood compatibility that I'm stuck on. The you know, this project was a development of 10 houses done in the early 60s in sort of a pseudo-colonial style. You know, as corny as it is what it is, and it does give a certain ambiance to the street. And I think more than anything, the standing seam metal roof breaks that continuity. And I mean, I think as a neighbor, I would object to that more than anything. I think that, I mean, I like the colors, and it doesn't, you know, the neighborhood is going to change. I mean, you know, it would be excellent in any other street where this continuity isn't already existing. So, I mean, I think that I noticed that on one wall, the stonework is introducing another aesthetic. I mean, is that really necessary? You've already addressed the thing. I think the walls, you know, could be studied. Maybe they could be lower. I'm not suggesting that they copy the colonial style, but I think that it's necessary to make some concessions to it. And I think the roof is a major point, and these walls could be studied and lowered. It's a different thought. It's not necessarily a bad thought, but, you know, in terms of the rest of the neighborhood, it's a totally different scheme. And I think with, you know, due diligence and work, it can be, you know, modified or, you know, I mean, you're obviously capable. I would like you to stretch a little bit more.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I do not have any additional slips. If anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. We will next move on to virtual comment. And at this time, I do not have any hands raised for virtual comment. And we did receive a written correspondence from a Mr. Kirk Wyatt on this project. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Thank you. We will start with questions from the board. Board Member Sherry, do you want to start us?
Oh, I'd like a refresher on just a photo of the other houses on the cul-de-sac, really briefly, just aside from the one to the right, which I can see clearly in that photo. Because the public speaker mentioned that they were all the same colonial style, so I just wanted to see what that meant. So can you describe which ones to the left?
The house, the one with the car in it is.
Do you have your
immediate-
do you have your
Microphone?
microphone on?
Sorry, thanks.
The one with the white car in it is our immediate neighbor
To the left?
to the left, and then the one next to it, and then that one is across the street. Is that correct?
It's kind of snaking around the
Yeah.
cul-de-sac, so left to
On
right.
the way up, yeah. But the other two.
Are
the
to our
top
right.
two are to our right. I mean, to our left, 29 and.
Yeah, so if you're standing in front of 30 Augusta Lane, the house directly to the left is this one, and to the left of that is this, and to the left of that is this. And then to the right is this house, and then this one.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Can you show us your material board? I'm sorry to interject, but your material board and how you think that ties in well with the neighborhood compatibility?
Well, our material board took on more of an earthy tone to try to tie back into the landscape. I feel like the colors of the houses in the neighborhood are pretty eclectic. They're kind of varied. And rather than try to tie into one house or two houses in particular, we thought tying into the colors in the landscape and and borrowing from the landscape would be a better way for us to fit into the context. We weren't really trying to match one specific house. It was more a palette that we were trying to adapt to.
I don't think any house in that neighborhood, there's a consistency in palettes in any of them. Are there?
Right, one's painted green, one has red brick, one is white,
Yellow.
one is yellow. So it's pretty eclectic.
And the stone
Sherry.
that we're putting up is only replacing brick. It's one stone for another. That wasn't a house that had no stone. The whole front of the house was brick.
Right, it was a red brick.
Right, the
Okay.
existing house is red brick.
Right.
We're just replacing that red brick with this
The
more kind of earthy tone stone, limestone.
Pardon my interruption, just a quick reminder to everybody in the meeting to speak into your mics so that City TV can pick it up. Thank you.
Sorry to interject. Board Member Sherry, other questions? Okay. Board Member Graffiti?
Yes. Can you pull up the old plans? Aside from adding landscaping,
Well, that landscaping doesn't reflect our current, you have pictures.
Well,
We took away a lot.
yeah, the previous design had a lot more landscaping. We've actually removed a lot, and we added this planter wall, this low wall, so that the plants inside here would, at mature growth, they would be about 4 to 5 feet in length, and so only about 1 to 2 feet of the wall would be showing.
That's why we put the planter to raise them. So you're
Right.
not going to really see the wall. You're going to see plants and then lower.
But there's
Yeah.
been no changes to the building, is what Board Member Graffiti is asking.
To the front facade, other
Correct.
than that, no. The
Okay.
back of the house, the footprint of the house has changed a little bit, but nothing visible from the street. We
Okay,
basically
the
made the house a
interior.
little smaller
Okay.
interior-wise and from the south.
And
from
if
the
you have
sides.
an updated landscape, we can put it onto CCTV and project it up.
Yeah.
It's much cleaner.
Okay.
And it
We're just
actually
gonna update it
matches the
right there.
neighborhood much better.
Oh, you want hedges on both sides, is what we're seeing here?
Yes.
Okay, and then what is the type of hedge?
It's a snake plant, actually, mother-in-law
it.
tongue.
Okay.
Everything is low water. that we're
And if
putting in.
CCTV, if you're able to pull up what's on the desk.
You wanna pass it?
Let's
You know what,
see.
I'll put this, let me see if I can put this on there. That might be a
That
little.
other one doesn't really, this reflects more what we're looking at.
Yeah,
this is a little
clearer.
It's okay, I can tilt it a little. It's okay, I'll tilt it a little. Okay, if you can zoom in.
So there's very little wall even showing, which is how,
Right, we just removed a little bit more landscaping. We felt like all of the houses to the left of us have nothing
the
on their lawn.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, all the other houses in the cul-de-sac are basically just grass and a few hedges up against the house, if that.
Sorry, 1 second. You can stop sharing. I need to make sure my notes are, there we go. Thanks.
And so from that image, I was just showing compared to this rendering, we've toned down the landscaping, the planting, to have more of just like a grass lawn in the front to blend into the neighboring houses.
I'm interjecting again, and I
okay, go for
apologize
it.
with this, but the snake plants, what was the driving there?
It was just a sculptural plant that is pretty resilient, and it was more the sculptural element of it
Okay.
and the low water,
and the low water use. Right.
Okay.
Everything.
and what the landscape the people that we hired, was one of the ideas that they recommended.
Okay, any other questions, Board Member Graffiti?
Not right now.
Okay, Board Member Moslehi?
One question is like, you mentioned that you haven't changed anything in the front elevation, but I think the louver has been added. Like, were they here
No,
previously?
the
right wall, the open railing part,
right.
that is the addition. So what was the,
We did have louvers between the wall before. So this.
so it's the same
Right.
as previously? Okay.
Right. We just added these planter.
The planter.
This low planter in front.
And one question, maybe Board Member Graffiti can help me. Or does this snake plants become this tall?
Can be like 4 to 5 feet tall max. I don't know
Looks a
how-
little bit unrealistic to me. That's
They're
why I'm
slow
asking.
growing.
I haven't seen.
But they can't get 4 to 5 feet?
And you can get them tall too. You could get
And
mature
we,
plants.
put the plant
Mature
underneath,
ones,
So
yeah.
we're actually starting 2.5 feet up the wall, but you don't see the planter
pretty
from far away because it matches the wall. So we only have 5.5 feet between it, so it will cover most of it.
Okay.
We're
Any
happy
other
to buy
Sorry, we're just
older
gonna,
plants. I
for
know.
sake of time, we're
Sorry.
gonna, okay, thanks, okay.
One last question. I know that you mentioned, do you guys know the approximate radius of that circle that you had on the
You said
compatibility?
a quarter of a mile?
Quarter of a mile?
Okay.
Okay.
That was the radius or diameter of it?
Radius.
Okay.
Radius, okay.
And I'm happy to go back to that too, if you wanted to go through how close.
No, just wanted to know.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
No? Board Member Richards?
So you guys said that you basically boxed out the planters in front of these walls. Is there any kind of particular reason why you guys decided to reuse the same material as the wall and not try and differentiate that planter box from something?
Yeah, we felt like we actually looked at another version where it was stucco, but we just felt like as you approach that front door, we wanted these materials to have depth. We wanted them to have some richness to it, some weight. And looking at the stucco low planter wall, it just didn't have the same effect as the stone does. We have a really cool limestone that we're using inside and out, and we just wanted to experience that rather than a stucco wall or introducing another material, which would have made it a little busier. And there's also plants in front of it that
barely see
are
it.
screening it as well. So we felt like it didn't feel like it was overbearing by using it again.
I think if we had put stucco there, it would have made it stand out more than being just flat from far away.
Any other questions?
No.
In regards to roofing, what is your openness to matching an asphalt similar to the rest of the neighbors?
I personally am happy to do it, but if there's a fire and my roof goes up, we're doing this because we're trying to follow right now, I live in Brentwood, and I'm evacuated, okay? And I've been evacuated for a week with fires burning and not able to go to my home. So it's very real to me, the feeling of a fire. This was recommended not because I wanted to spend 40,000 whatever more dollars on my roof, but because I don't want to go up in flames. So I would feel, if that's what's going to make the deal of our being able to move forward, I'll do it. But I'm very afraid of burning at the moment and losing my home. So if you need that, then you can have it. But it's very scary to think you're going to go up in fire. I was evacuated from my house for the last fires that were up in the Santa Monica Mountains, where we looked out our back window and Tiger Tail was up in flames, So it's not something I don't even know if I'm going to get home to a home by the time I go home tomorrow. We're still with the fires all around us. So, we're trying to just be safe and provide safety to our home, our animals, and the neighborhood. We're backed up. What are those plants that are behind our house that were the ones that go up in fire, the eucalyptus? Our whole downward side of our house is 40% dried out eucalyptus. I mean, we could be the beginning of the fire for our neighborhood, not with intention, but if something catches back there. So, it's for safety. It's really not for aesthetic.
No, that is helpful. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. I think that is it for questions. So we'll start with comments. Board Member Sherry, do you want to start us?
I don't have a problem with this house at all. I think it's really nice. I would not change the roof material on this style of house. I can certainly appreciate the neighbor not wanting to see this quick of a change in style on that cul-de-sac, but it's not in an area of town that is that has a specific design guideline that we have to adhere to, and there's enough diversity even within the cul-de-sac, in my opinion, that this one is definitely going to be different, but there's two-story columns in the colonial style as well as a more traditional colonial style, and it's not like there's just one style, and I think it's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Graffitti?
Sure. I think probably similar comments to last time, and not a lot has changed. And it was helpful to see some of the neighborhood context photos. I think it was a little trickier for me to kind of narrow down which ones were on the cul-de-sac and fringe, just because of the way they were numbered. So just feedback for future, if maybe you could separate them for us to look over. But I saw some context there. I didn't see as much as I think I would have hoped to be extra supportive of such a departure from this cul-de-sac. I think I probably have a slightly different perspective than Vice Chair Sherry on that. I think it's a really nice house, and I think the landscaping and everything works exactly for the style and the palette. The hard thing for me is just that it is a departure from what the neighborhood is, and part of me is on board with that in the style. One of the things I think I'm having a harder time getting on board with is just the tall front walls. It's, again, besides the just architectural style, it's a complete departure from the front yards of all the other homes in the neighborhood. And I did drive through it again and just really try to assess how I felt this blended in. And I don't know, I'm struggling a little bit more for how to make some of our guidelines and neighborhood compatibility. And so part of it's palette, part of it's style, part of it is these front walls and landscaping. And again, I think the landscaping works really well with the style. It's just all of it is so different. And I want to make sure, even as this neighborhood evolves and new styles are added over time, one of it is from the public street, how does it look? And is it approachable? So I want to hear what the other board members have to say on that note, but that's kind of where I stand right now.
Great, thank you. Board Member Mosley?
I really appreciate the study that you guys did on the neighborhood, and thank you for doing that, like all the cul-de-sac, and it was like really helpful to see that it's like a change is like evolving, everything is evolving, so, and seeing that like specific houses that they're really eclectic to the neighborhood, it's gonna happen again. So it's hard to be the first one in the cul-de-sac, so. And I don't have an issue with the style of the house as well. And I think it will happen to the neighborhood eventually. The comment that I have is like a little bit related to the board member graffiti. I think like the landscape now, especially the snake plants, they're like pretty modern options. Like, and then it's like making it more bold that the style is more modern than the neighborhood. So I think maybe looking at options that with the landscape, it blends more with the neighborhood, that will be helpful. This is like making it extra modern comparing to the neighborhood. And the other thing that I was looking at is I don't have an issue with the standing seam roof, and I really support that it will protect from any like natural disasters. And the only thing is studying the color of the standing seam roof, maybe a little bit muted and more closer to what it exists in the cul-de-sac will help. Like the boldness of the.
More of a gray rather than a.
Maybe a little bit, that will help, because it's like a dark brown or,
Next door is,
what's
to
the
the right
color
of us
now?
is black, I think, no?
What's the proposed standing seam color now? Can we go to the color
I
palette?
believe it's a dark bronze.
Dark bronze.
A bronze.
Okay.
Yeah. classic
Dark bronze.
Classic bronze by Atlas, yeah.
Just to study the colors of the roofs that are surrounding, not specifically the material, but to see how we can blend more to the cul-de-sac.
That's reasonable.
I think that's my comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Board Member Richards?
Sure, I appreciate you guys providing that neighborhood study. I think that's important to kind of see what's going on in the neighborhood beyond just kind of the cul-de-sac, which in my opinion is a little bit of a mix of farmhouse and colonial, so it's not maybe purely colonial in my personal opinion. I can really appreciate the architecture. I think it looks quite nice. I think my only issue is having those planter boxes in the same material as those walls. To me, just feels like you're putting those walls up on pedestals. So that's, I think, my only comment is if they could be something softer, or maybe picking up some of that, some of the other metal tones or other materials that you have, maybe might be interesting.
Thank you. I'd like to take a straw poll from the board on the height of the front walls, and if there's any concern with the amount of glazing or solid, or if we're all in support, minus Board Member Richards' comments about the planters.
What's the straw vote? Because I think the wall could be lowered a foot, honestly.
Yeah, well, so could you pull up your slide that has the 6 foot, 7th, and 8 foot? And I think that's a helpful sheet to reference.
Isn't the
Can I
house
mention
next-
something on the wall while she's pulling up, or?
We're technically in
sorry,
our phase of comments. So And while she's pulling that up, I'll say, I do really appreciate the study. I think it did encompass some houses outside of the zone that we were looking at, but I think it was helpful. And, the thing that we mentioned last time that we were struggling with is that there's a style, though not solidly complete within the neighborhood, but that they all kind of shared a similar tone, and so we wanted to know that this wouldn't be the only outlier in the cul-de-sac structure, that we weren't starting a precedent that wasn't already there. I think you've shown at least examples in 2 or 3 where there's variety coming in. I will say on a number of the cul-de-sacs, the variety coming in is quite minor. You know, I think to the normal eye, you maybe wouldn't notice. My other thing here is, and this is why I'm, as Board Member Sherry said, you know, this is not a protected zone of its architecture style. And so compatibility is a little vague, and the biggest compatibility markers that we have to go by are size, bulk, and scale, and I think you are meeting that, and maintaining the roof as it is, I think, is one of the biggest components in helping with that compatibility. I do think there are options in the materiality and colors, and I agree that there's not a singular color throughout the neighborhood. It's not like they're all the white stucco and you're now not white stucco, but we're trying as best as possible to make sure there is a seamless blend among this. And I think now that we've got this up here, so the top 2 appear to both be tall. What's happening
So I'll
between the
just
top 2?
clarify really quickly. So the left column is the 6-foot option and the right column is the 7-foot option. And then we don't have the 8-foot on here because that's what we were presenting. So I'd be happy to jump back to that if you want to compare.
Okay, so 6 foot and 7 feet.
So one viewed from the street, one viewed a
Okay.
little bit closer.
So you're not proposing 8 feet? It's
No,
one
they
of these-
are proposing 8 feet,
This
and
is like
these
an
are 2 options,
These are other
additional.
Additional options.
Oh, so you didn't show us what you wanted?
No, they did on another one. This is additional page.
Oh, okay, where's the
Yeah.
one with the 8 foot?
This is the 8-foot from the street. And then this is the 8-foot a little bit closer. And then here is the study of the 6 and 7.
Board Member Sherry, what are your thoughts?
I honestly don't think you're going to lose privacy with a 6-foot wall in front of your house, and an 8-foot to me seems too tall.
Well, I'd be willing
I
to go
agree.
to the
So,
7. if we could
so
agree
that's
on
my
the middle.
opinion.
That's your thought? Okay. Any other comments from the board on the height of the overall?
I have a
wall?
question.
Okay.
What height is that, the window behind it, the living room window, the transom windows, what level is
It's,
that?
the living room behind it is floor to ceiling,
Yes.
and the transom lines up with the transom of the wall that we have on the left side, so that, you know, if our wall was at 8 feet, it would line up with the other wall that you see to the left of the entry.
So the total height
height
of the
of-
glass is what?
Yeah.
From finished
Where the
floor?
transom
Oh.
starts, yeah.
6 feet,
6 feet, okay.
right.
And then the transom above that?
Right, so from,
Yeah,
from
okay.
0 to, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
I think with a 6 feet wall or maximum 7, you'll have the full privacy. You don't need to go higher than that to the transom window. So
7.
I'll
think
wait to
that-
see all the members.
And
who are-
I think that the 6-foot wall is just proportionately better, in my opinion, and I don't think you're going to lose your privacy. And I think that then you don't have to buy 4-foot snake plants right away to cover the wall. And the wall of the house is far enough back that, and there's probably a grade differential between the street and the house, somewhat, just a slight difference that will contribute to that. So, I mean, maybe a compromise is 6.5 feet.
I'd be
don't
open
know.
to that. Board Member Graffiti, were you to add a comment?
Yeah, I think this is one of the probably biggest points for me is just these front walls. And I understand the need for privacy, but again, in general, just looking at the neighborhood, this isn't something that's consistent, and you have a backyard as well. So I think this is a bonus space, and I would recommend 6 feet, but I would be supportive at 6.5.
And then thoughts on the planter. I think there's enough other layers of plantings that you don't necessarily see the material of the planting beds, though I would be open to them being a different material, but I don't mind it either way. I think the biggest was our just trying to defend the style being different. Okay, so then they're here for project design approval. It sounds like the majority think that it could have PDA.
I'd like to entertain a motion for project design approval with the comment that the front wall height be reduced to 6.5 feet.
I second. I would also be open to it going to consent for final.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
We'll take a, I guess we'll do the motion, like the full thing, and then,
Chair Lewis, yes, I'll pull the findings up here on the screen. This project will need neighborhood preservation findings and hillside design district and slope lot findings.
I don't make a difference. Technically, that can be part of final.
We're not guided, we're not making guided comments. Doesn't have to bring in a vote. Just saying.
Need to make the findings first.
Yeah, after you do the findings.
Oh, I have to do the findings beforehand.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite
Our
part.
favorite.
I did this 4 times at Consent today. The proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood due to the significant upgrade that's being proposed to the existing residents. The proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood, and its size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the site and neighborhood because the existing mass, bulk, and scale is similar to the existing, and the neighborhood is not comprised of a single style. The cul-de-sac in particular is not composed of a single style, and the neighborhood in and of itself is comprised of many different styles, including quite a number of examples of modern architecture. The proposed buildings and structures are designed with quality architectural details, and the proposed materials and colors maintain the natural appearance of the ridgeline or hillside because the palette and the material, the proposed materiality is of natural colors and materials. No specimen trees are proposed to be eliminated as part of this project, and the public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected and preserved. The project generally complies with the Good Neighbor Guidelines regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting. The development, including proposed structures and grading, preserves significant scenic views of and from the hillside because none of the existing views are altered as a part of this project.
Second.
The hillside design and slope lot findings, the development, including the proposed structures and grading, is appropriate to the site, is designed to avoid visible scarring and does not significantly modify the natural topography of the site or the natural appearance of any ridgeline or hillside, because the existing structure is maintaining its existing location, mass, bulk, and scale in general, and no grading, no significant grading is being proposed. The development maintains a scale and form that blends with the hillside by minimizing the visible appearance of structures and the overall height of structures due to the proposed natural palette and materiality.
Okay, Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslahi,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much for your time and your feedback.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, we'll move to our second item. This is a continued item here for concept review. Demolition of an existing
Chair
one.
Lewis.
Oh, yes?
Pardon my interruption, we just need to announce the appeal process for.
Oh, thank you.
The first item, you have 10 calendar days to submit an appeal. Thanks, sorry for the interruption.
Okay. Okay. So a continued item here for concept review, 2200 Carlton, demolition of an existing 1,403 square foot residence and construction of a two-story, 2,516 square foot residence with an attached 300 square foot JADU on a 6,948 square foot lot in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The total 2,816 square feet on a 6,948 square foot lot is 96% of the required floor area ratio with the ADU. The review by the staff hearing officer for modifications is required to grant relief from the open yard and front setback zoning standards for a coastal development permit for the proposed JADU. The JADU is exempt from design review, however, the new two-story house requires review by SFDB. The proposed two-story house qualifies for a coastal exclusion. And I'm reading through all of our little things. Okay, so the project was last heard on September 23rd. Do we have staff comments for this item?
Thank you, Chair Lewis. We do. So this is a concept review, and as such, no final appealable action will take place at this hearing, but the applicant is requesting comments for the consistency with the guidelines for the front setback modification and the open yard modification. When the project is heard for project design approval, neighborhood preservation findings will be required. And I just want to note that the FAR of the house is at 96%, and that includes the square footage of the ADU. The building is less than 25 feet tall. As such, a floor area modification is not required by code.
Do you have the comments made previously since they aren't on their screen? Oh, you have them right? Okay, perfect, thank you.
You want to
Okay,
start?
you guys can start.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Sean Lynch with Evoke Design. This is Nick Mason. He's the owner and contractor. So we're back again for 2200 Carlton Way. We were here last time with a similar iteration, but made some changes to the second level floor plan, some minor first level floor plans to address some of the neighbor concerns and overall SFDB comments. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read through all the comments, and then I'll kind of do a quick presentation, and then I can respond to any questions as possible. Comment 1, the board appreciates the constraints of the law and understand these with regards to the design of a program that fits within the needs of the client. 2, the board appreciates the proposed style and material. 3, the board takes no exception with the location of the open yard areas being within the front setback. 4, the board takes no exception with the proposed modification required for alterations within the front yard along Carlton. 5, the applicant to provide documentation of both the neighbors to the west and to the north in the site plan and the form of site sections that illustrate the proximity of both neighbors' houses with respect to the proposed development. 6, study ways to reduce the second-story massing along the northern property line by possible relocation of deck and or moving the roof louvers of the deck. 7, the applicants provide photos of the northern and western neighbors taken from the site. And 8, the board encourages the applicant to reach out to the neighbors regarding the proposed second story. Just to touch on the last item, we did reach out to the neighbor. He is present today. We did go to his house and reviewed his plans. We've taken photos, and we're going to provide them to you guys as well. And so just going through here, I can kind of talk about the changes that have happened. So just looking kind of starting at this image here. What we did originally, our last iteration had a roof line that went straight across and aligned with this ridge. What we did is we essentially took this mass and moved it over the garage to break up the mass from the northern property line. The neighbor to the north, their house is encroaching in the setback, and so their views are exacerbated, obviously, by any kind of development along here. So part of what we wanted to do is try to, I guess, create some more openness. His layout is similar to this one, where it's kind of at the back of the lot. So it's kind of tough with what we can do because we want to keep this existing portion of the house. Again, it's a substantial remodel, so we'll be really developing a lot of it. But part of it is to make sure we try to maintain footings and structural components. With this design change, it resulted in an increase in the FAR, and that's really due to the location of the stairs. We've had to move it to reduce that mass because where it went up, it created that extra mass. So we had to create a new stair location, and that led to some additional accessory space within the building that we've utilized as well. Just kind of going here, here's the neighbor to the north, the neighbor to the west, and then these are just across the street. The neighbor to the west was done by Appleton's and Associate, and then actually to the north was through Sherry and Associates. Here's our kind of general kind of palette of what we're going with. I'm sure you're familiar, so I'll just kind of keep going through. As you can see, our initial, we try to line this up. Just to kind of quickly go back, this is our fourth iteration. We started with a single level. We realized that the amount of time and money and construction costs didn't make sense, so we tried to add additional program by coming back again with another single level option. We couldn't make it work. We had pushback from our planner. So long story short, we exhausted all single level options. That was our intent to begin with. We had to go with 2 stories because of the constraints of this lot, 2 front setbacks, just a small corner lot. Kind of going through. What it did is we reduced the ADU slightly to about 300 from 340. With that, we actually shifted the garage further off this western property line so we can get a door in here before we had it coming off the west. So that's part of what we were doing. And then kind of laundry room. And so this is what really pushed our square footage, is having to move the stairs here. And I have some printed out comparisons next to each other we can put up for City TV just to give a good idea. It created a little bit of accessory space here, so that'll really be like kind of a seating area, kind of book area, breakout little hallway. This wall aligns with above, so really this wall is dictated by upstairs, and upstairs is dictated by our solar access. So this wall was kind of fixed. This one was able to shift more, but again, we try to align this hallway up. We did have program here originally, which was bathroom and laundry when the stairs were located here, so we've moved it all into this area here. Second story is you come up. Before we came up, I believe, I can't remember off the top of my head, we had a bathroom right in this area. The stairs came up here, and there was a deck out here too. So part of what we did is we created a small deck here. It's 15 feet away from the property line. It's about 2.5 feet away from the corner of the building. And that's really to sort of help with the massing as we get into the elevations. It's just a trellis structure above, and it's just really feels like it's able to kind of extend that mass visually without the bulk. And then this wall is also dictated by lining up with the structural wall below too. We're trying to make this cost effective. The goal was never a 2-story. Now it's a 2-story, so we're trying to make sure it's cost effective. And then as you can see, we did model the neighbors' properties too. As you can see here, this is that new stair tower. Here's the neighbor to the north structure. It encroaches 4 feet. It's a 4-foot setback below, and then it goes to the normal 6 feet above. So this is his living space up here. And I can show some photos. It's right now Nick currently doesn't have any privacy whatsoever. So part of this will sort of address all of that. So this is a western elevation, existing proposed. The east elevation, so this is facing Palisades, and there's that little deck trellis structure, kind of just a metal, kind of like I-beams with them infill posts and beams. And then this is will be where the bathroom is, and then this is the living room. Really, the living room kitchen area didn't change. Then we're going here. So this is this is a northern elevation facing the neighbor. So what we try to do is, these are just bedrooms, so they're egress, they're privacy. We really try to eliminate most of the windows facing the neighbor because his house is essentially right mirrored to this portion. So this is a stair tower. We have a nice window on the side. We have one on each side, so nothing facing his property. And these are just windows above the nightstands in the master bedroom. Door in, and then kind of a little window. We provided a covered overhang to provide privacy into this area because his deck essentially looks into this property. So what we wanted to do is just kind of create a little privacy for the hallway as well. And then this is the southern elevation, so our garage, door to the ADU, primary bathroom, primary bedroom, and then really most of these elevations stay the same. 8-foot plates upstairs, downstairs, not pushing it. I think we're about 23 feet maximum height, so we're definitely under the max height limit. We're 6 feet, this is for the northern property line here, we're 6 feet there, and we're about, I think, 13 feet to the primary structure here, so we're trying to set back as much as possible. Just going through elevations, happy to look at them as needed for each one. Typical details, header details, sills, try to keep it very simple, kind of back and esque in a sense, where the wood cladding, woods, you know, here you go, the wood cladding, 0 overhangs for the eaves, and then very minimal for the rake. And then we're going to go with a corrugated siding, so it'll be like a galvalume, like a grayish color. So here's just some computer perspectives for you, just to give you a sense of the massing. And then here's our material palette. So here's kind of that metal trellis structure. This is, you know, obviously reference. Aluminum clad and steel windows were applied. Some, this gray stucco for certain portions, board form concrete, the corrugated metal roof here. And I just wanted to kind of go back. Here's our first iteration. We were going to go with a dark siding. Here's our second iteration where we had no garage and tried to put the ADU, and it just didn't work with the code. And then here was our last iteration. So let me just quickly go into that, and that's the last thing that you guys saw. So here we go. Where's a good one? I think this is a good one here. So as you can see, you know, it really went the whole northern property line. And essentially, we took this away, put it right here. And then let me just see. Here's a kind of a conceptual landscape plan. Again, just try to create some privacy where we have this little patio, or not even a patio, but the little kind of hallway, kind of garden area. Second story kind of deck, trellis structure, kind of a low deck, and it's about 10 inches, so it can be within the setback. And then just kind of nice pavers and kind of natural landscaping. And then mechanical-wise, we just have our heat pump over here. Again, we're just looking for comments now, so we'll obviously have this further developed as we go in for PDA and final. And that's it. And then let me just provide you with a couple of the items requested through, let me see here. So let me just start with some of the site photos, and then I put it here in case we need to, and I just wanted to make sure I had additional photos that weren't in the set as well.
For CCTV, if you can put this.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
So I'll put those, and I'll look up here so I can read them that way too. So, okay, where is he? There we go. So this is the view from the neighbor's deck, looking down the driveway and obviously looking at our subject property here. So as you can see, it's very exposed. This is looking along the western property line at the western neighbor. So as you can see, it's very dense. So we don't think there's any issues with privacy for the neighbor to the west. I'll just go like this. If you want, I can just go one by one here. If you want to zoom in, maybe that's, yeah, if you could zoom into here, I'll just go. Yeah, these ones are perfect, just like that. Great. And then this is from the neighbor's backyard, looking towards the neighbors to the north. Again, neighbor backyard, looking to the neighbor to the north, and this is on the west side of the garage, looking to the north as well. And then let me just show you, and I did print out some of the plans, I took some photos. This is the neighbors, this was the program upstairs. So really it's a living room and then a deck. So it's a public space, not bedrooms, it's more public space. So again, we want to make sure we have privacy as well, because most of the program on that wall for us is private space, so it's bedrooms and stuff. So we want to be considerate about what windows are being shown. And then here's just the elevation of that elevation there. And then let me go, and then I do have the neighbor to the west plans. They were reviewed, I think, in 2020 through your board. They did an addition to their second story. There's just sort of the site plan, and then, I stapled these. And then we're on this side of the property there. And then this is their second story. So they have, this is facing our property. What does that say? So it's essentially a sunroom, and they have some windows there. So again, we really try to minimize our windows facing most of the neighbors for privacy concerns, except for sort of egress and light. So beyond that, I did provide another exhibit showing, I modeled these properties, and so you can see the proximities from our parcel, and provided sections as well through. So I did write on there just what those properties were. So as you can see, they're all roughly the same height, give or take. So I think compatibility-wise, I don't think it was ever an issue with the second story, but we just wanted to show what those uses were in those areas.
Just to read these for people that can't see,
Yeah.
The neighbor is 4 feet from the property line. The proposal is 6 feet for this site. Up here, the neighbors are 21 and a half, a little more, and this proposal is a little more than 13 feet on the first floor and more than 16 feet on the second floor.
Perfect. And if you want to, I did provide, where is this? Sorry, it's this one. For if we need to look, I just did 2 PDFs of the previous plan plus the new plan. And again, that's something, if you guys want to look at it when we get into comments and questions, I'm happy to respond. So this is the proposed, and that's the previous iteration. So just to put it all in one place for you guys. And that completes my presentation.
Perfect, thank you. We will move to public comment, and we can stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. Actually, we do have one. Thank you.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Jim Mitchell, and I have the house to the north. And I think they've addressed some, does that work now? Yeah. I think they've addressed at least breaking up the mass, but I don't know. My concern is that my upstairs, all the windows will be looking right out into his structure, and I'll have very little view looking out because it all faces, the windows all face south, and his building is south. And I appreciate the constraints they have, and I think they've done a good job, but I just wanted to express the fact that it's a little hard for me to all of a sudden have a 23-foot story building right on my property line. And I do have a 4-foot setback because that was old grandfathered in before most of us were employed. So anyway, that's my comment. Well, the other one was there was an issue about the easement, and I think we've come to an agreement about that because there's a 10-foot easement for my utilities, and we're going to move it to 6, and so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I do not have any additional slips for this particular project. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. We will move on to virtual comment, and at this time, I do not have any hands raised for virtual comment, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this project. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, we will start with questions from the board. Board Member Sherry, do you want to start us?
Just one question. You were talking in your presentation about how the FAR got bigger because of the stair element that you had to add. Can you explain that in the plan again, and so I can understand it, maybe looking at the plan at the same time so I can understand why that was the only way to
And
do
if
those
you want to,
stairs?
if City TV can show that, I can go, or however you guys
and
want
you can
to, I mean,
point
if
to
you
it.
want me to point
That
to it, or
works.
if you want to look at it directly, that's fine. And that's why I wanted to provide
I can
this.
look at it on the screen.
And I have a little,
City TV, please zoom in on the table.
so, and I did a little calculation. So the first floor increased by 127 square feet. If we want to just go, sorry, this is the second level. So part of that was, as you could tell, the existing stairs were, oh yeah, maybe we'll just.
Oh, switch them. There, thanks.
The existing stairs were in this location, and what that did was it dictated where those stairs came up on the second level. That's what was driving that long mass. So we had to relocate the stairs. So by relocating the stairs, we've now pushed outside of this existing envelope. And so the increase is not only to here, we have a small little increase in this area. As you can see, it's, you know, a couple feet. And then the garage slightly grew as well by, like, what do I have there? About 8 to 10 square feet.
But then you have a reduction a little bit here.
A little bit, we did try to push and pull. This mass really stayed the same because that's an existing structure. So we really pushed here, we pushed in this area. As you can see, we've kind of kept this all the same, but what we did, we shifted the garage to be able to get into that area.
And then on the second floor.
Yeah, and on the second floor, there's a 154 square foot addition. And so with relocating the stairs, we come up, we have this kind of accessory extra space that was developed through that. And so now we're going to make it kind of like a study office area with a single window that faces out to the west. And then obviously pushing out and getting the program to the right size as needed for the primary bathroom. As you can see, it's not anything crazy, just tub, shower, toilet room, and a double vanity. And then a pretty modest, nothing crazy, walk-in closet. And then the bedroom really stays about the same. We wanted to keep it aligned on sort of that lower deck area. And then there was an actual reduction in the ADU below by about 50 square feet. So that altogether is about 230 square feet. And just so, just also, without the ADU, we're 86%. So, FYI.
What counts as the JADU?
It's,
This
yeah,
zone?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, yeah, so it's, that's the laundry, so it's all of this area here.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, Board Member Profiti?
No questions.
Board Member Mosley?
No questions.
Board Member Richards?
You, in your material palette, you had both plaster and board form concrete. Where was both of those materials located?
The board form will be on sort of the planter walls, accessory walls. The plaster, we're still playing with the idea of having kind of a base, kind of like a base, kind of hold it down with plaster. Some of that got carried through. I think we're going now towards completely just wood siding and no plaster. Or actually, I'm incorrect. The plaster will be the chimney. Yes. And then let me go to those, and I can just kind of show you those perspective. So here you can see in the front here, there'll be some board form concrete in these locations. Just concrete stairs, and then really that's kind of it. So not a lot of board form, maybe some small planters throughout little site walls, but it's really this area and then kind of these little pieces.
Okay.
I'm looking at both, and I'm thinking, so when you went from this massing to extending over one of the roofs, you chose this one because it lowers your overall height because your garage is already lower, is that correct?
Well, so this is, we're trying to keep this is existing. So
Okay.
we don't want to push we wanted to try to keep the
Do as much as
framing.
little.
It's
Okay.
kind of a post and beam already, so a lot of, it's already supported by a ridge beam. So beyond underpinning footings and just some
Right.
new walls, the roof structure will remain the same. Will be all new. So
Okay.
we felt it was more appropriate to kind of push it this area as well. Also, just with concerns with the neighbor, moving the mass in this direction away from, essentially he doesn't see any of that. And so it opens up this area to try to create a little bit more of, a break in a big facade.
Okay. All right, we'll move to comments from the board. Board Member Sherry, you want to start us?
Yeah, I appreciate the effort that you've gone to break up the massing and look at the plan again. And I think that even though it's been, several iterations, I think you've come out with something that's hopefully you feel that it's come out better than what you
Definitely.
started with. And I think it's appropriate, and I think that the breakup, I really appreciate the breakup on the north elevation, which was my primary concern at the beginning of this project. And the only comment that I would make as an architect and a potential homeowner of this house would be to maybe look at maybe getting even more light in that stairwell. And I think you probably did it because you didn't want any windows facing the neighbor, and you didn't want them to see anything. But working with the neighbors and maybe looking at a way to strategically place a window higher in that wall. If it were me, I would not want to look at the blank wall, but that may not be, the neighbor might want to prefer looking at the blank wall. Just something to consider looking at if you wanted more light in the stairwell. Yeah, that elevation. And if it was strategically placed higher, it might be something more attractive to look out onto rather than a blank wall. But you might want to talk to the northerly property owner about that. So that's my only comment.
All right, Board Member Graffiti.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Vice Chair Sherry. And overall, I'm in support of the project. I think the FAR is appropriate given the neighborhood and that it includes the JADU. I really liked this project last time. I like the revisions that you made to it even more, and I think it will help with the second story massing, and appreciate you working with your neighbor as well and collaborating as much as possible. In an ideal world, maybe there was more yard to play around with and you didn't have to, go all the way to the 6-foot setback. But I think given the site constraints and what you're looking to accomplish and just our own guidelines, you're well within those, and heights and everything, you're way, under what our minimum is. So I think it's a great project and I'm in full support of it.
I think that the material palette is really nice. I think some of that's not coming across fully in the rendering, which we understand. One of the things that I would recommend looking at is the large square window above the garage, and studying that proportion. It's hitting close to the pitch of the roof. And the overhead shade structure as well, when you just look in perspective, I think studying how, when you come back for PDA, how the porch is all working there on the second floor, and how, I think when you get a quick glance at the perspective, the addition feels a little disjointed. The floor plan, I think, works wonderfully and is spaced out really well and functions really well. And I think it's just taking a look at, especially the street perspectives, and how to make it, I know it's an addition and it's kind of a patchwork, but how to make it feel like maybe it was intentionally always like this. And there might be some ways to kind of connect in that way and or play around with the scale that works with all the openings around. I would also recommend studying the height of those board form concrete walls. Balance of privacy, but also maybe utilizing some greenery in some areas instead of tall, solid surfaces. I'm not concerned with the scale of the project, and I understand neighbor views. Unfortunately, they're not something protected by our board, but I do think it's worth continuing communications with the neighbors and understanding and coming to a good position there. I like your inspiration as well for the awning structures as well, and where you're going with that. And the landscaping, I think I'm not worried about the open yard. I think you've crafted the site plan well in a way that you're still providing that, and there's still an openness to the neighborhood as well. Board Member Moslehi?
I appreciate the changes and updates that you guys have done. It's more cohesive now, and I think with the constraints of the neighbors, you're doing the best that it's possible. Appreciate that as well. I have some follow-up comments to other board members. One is the window above that garage. So the awning, so that's the only, like, you have a inspiration image. That's the only place that it's happening. The other one is like different, or it's the same?
Are they the same awning structure for both there and at the porch?
These two, yes, essentially the same. These will have posts that come down and a cantilevered portion, but they'll be the same construction, assembly to them for sure. Maybe you're talking, we did provide kind of like a
It's like
eyebrow
yes,
around
punched
it.
out, yeah.
And that's just to kind of create some shadow lines. So that is the only location. It really, you can kind of see let me go up to this elevation, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see a little bit protruding there. It's really just to create additional kind of shadow lines on that front
Yeah,
facade.
I understand that. My question was more about, like, is this awning and the other awning, like the one that is above the balcony, they're the same structure?
Yeah,
Assembly.
Okay.
yeah, they'll be, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. And one other question is, like, the porch has, like, the railing has like a little bit lower solid, and then you have glazing above it.
Yeah.
But you don't have it here. Is that because it's hitting the roof?
Yeah, because the way we wanted to line that up with the ridge, so essentially, exactly, the way, and also just to pull it up a little higher, privacy to the neighbor, I mean, it's not much, but it creates a different condition, but yeah, essentially, that you're right, exactly, it's glazing above kind of a lower sort of guardrail.
Okay, and the wall of the stairs, as Board Member Sherry was mentioning, is there any landscaping proposed in front of it?
We don't have a fully developed landscape plan yet, but that's absolutely something we want to pursue. The stair tower, we really want to just get back in as quickly as possible to make sure, we're keeping on our budget, our timeline. So this needs, I agree, a little bit more study on sort of how it works. Again, his patio and his windows are right there, so if he's standing out there and we do have a window here, he can look into this area. So I think it's a balance we got to kind of play of how much, whether maybe it's some wood louver slats that are positioned in a way it gets light but doesn't look into his yard, or vice versa too. So I agree. I think that it needs a little bit more development.
Okay, and I think that's it for me. And personally, I don't prefer having like divided lights and like non-divided lights mixed in it, but like I see that you guys have a pattern to it now. So I think like, yeah, it's just looking better than like, I think previous time it was one of the topics that we talked, but it's a personal decision. And like, what was the reason that like you didn't do non-divided light on the other ones? Like, because like on the slidings, and like I understand because of the views and everything, was there a specific like architectural style that?
Just the way that the grid and the size of the windows, we kind of try to like to keep these, squares and not, rectangles and stuff like that. This one a little bit, again, I think these still need to get developed. They can maybe pull in a little bit, 2 or 3 inches in to kind of create that same rhythm. But really, most windows and doors are divided lights except the
sliding.
bifolds and the
Yeah.
sliders.
Okay.
Or there's no bifolds, sorry, but just the sliders, and these won't have divided lights in them. But everything, and then obviously these smaller windows don't either. They just, I feel, would be too busy. So we try to really simplify, and again, this next, now knowing we have positive comments and, hopefully we can move forward, it's really now kind of getting into the nuts and bolts, really making sure everything makes sense when we come back in for PDA.
Okay, that was all my comments.
Board Member Richards?
I'm in general agreement with everybody. I think it's a good-looking project. I would recommend, again, studying that window for the master bathroom just a little bit.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. I think for PDA, it would still be good to come back to the full board. Do you disagree?
Staff hearing?
Right, but then afterwards, back to full board, I think will be good for PDA. Okay. I'm making sure we get here. So you need to go to the staff hearing officer. All right. I move to continue this project indefinitely to the staff hearing officer and back to the full board with the following comments. That the board is in support of the size, bulk, and scale of the project. The board appreciates the constraints of the property, and the board is in support of the material palette and looks forward to seeing in PDA the scope of the plaster versus wood versus stone elements and concrete. The board recommends studying the rear stair massing and options to help break it up and or introduce natural light into the stairwell. The board would like to see adjustments to the window above the garage as it's quite close to the ridge, and recommends studying the style of that window in relation to the rest of the house. The board also recommends studying the detailing of the different balconies and roof structure awnings for cohesiveness. The board is in support of the grant relief from the open yard and front setback zoning standards. Given the restraints of the property and the provided open space on the corner lot, the board doesn't have an aesthetic reason not to grant these. I think that's it. Okay.
I'll second that motion. If the maker of the motion could maybe add at the comment that was made about the stairwell to, when you mentioned continue to study the massing and the windows and the stairwell, to maybe add potential landscaping that would soften the two-story north stairwell wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslahy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Very much.
And here's all your papers. Thank you, they were helpful. Okay. All right. Next is a continued item here for project design approval and final approval. This is 25 Conejo Road, proposal for 38 square feet of first floor additions and 148 square feet of second floor additions to an existing 4,353 square foot single unit residence in the Hillside Design District. Project also includes demolishing a 370 square foot lot, rebuilding and expanding the second floor deck by 620 square feet, replacing all existing doors and windows in same size and location, a roof replacement, new decking, material and waterproofing, and an interior remodel. The proposal includes permitting the as-built patio and site walls. Project will abate violations of enforcement case ENF 2023-00254. The proposed total of 6,623 square feet on an 87,207 square foot lot is 120% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. The project was last reviewed on September 30th at consent. Okay, are there any staff comments for this one?
Thank you, Chair Lewis. None other than this project was scheduled at full board, even though it qualifies for consent review, just for the reason of having no space on consent agendas and a little bit of space on full board. So that's why it's here.
Okay, then welcome. You've got your mic on. If you can state your name for the record.
I'm Jose Luis Esparza, architect, and I'll provide a little bit more history. This project went through Single Family Design Board in 2015, got full approval. Unfortunately, they didn't complete the construction. The permit lapsed. In 2018, we renewed the permit, and it lapsed again. So we're back to get it reapproved. No design changes have been done. We're only providing what the board requested at consent. And what they provided on consent was they wanted to see what the site looked like with the neighbor structures. So that's on this page. As you can see, we're quite a distance from our neighbors. It's a 2-acre lot, so there's quite a lot of space around it. There was an oak tree that is located right here. That's 25 feet from distance from our deck to the edge of the trunk. It has a branch that basically parallels the grade. It's lower than, the grade is going down towards the back. So the trunk just kind of grew parallel to the grade and into our deck area. From the aerial, it looked like we would need to take out an oak tree, but it's just a branch that we needed to get an arborist to give us a recommendation, and he's recommending to, trim that tree branch. And our arborist was Robert Muraca. Let me see. Our deck railing has always been proposed to be plaster, so to match the house. That's the way the original design was proposed. As you can see, all these railings are just plastered. One of the requests was to provide a front door, more specifications on the front door. So here's the front door, and let's see. See if I can zoom in. No, that's not it.
It's also a touch screen if that's helpful for zooming on your, yeah, there you go.
Okay. So that's an elevation of the front door that the owner and I have selected. Also, gutters and other material boards, which we provided digitally, but we also brought the originals because they always look way better. And the light, also brought in a light board, light fixture board, which the lights were the original ones that we proposed in 2015. That hasn't changed. And the patio that was mentioned was always there. For some reason, it never got onto the drawings, so we've provided it on the drawings now. And it's this patio that's attached to the garage workshop area, and it is outside of the setbacks. It's this patio area, so it's outside of the front setback and outside of the side setbacks. And I believe that's all of the items. I did submit some photos if you wanted to see that oak tree.
Yeah, they're at the bottom of the PDF. We have them in ours as well.
Okay.
They attach them to the very bottom.
Okay, and I also brought pictures of what it looked like in 2015 before we started anything, if you wanted to look at those.
We can pass them around. And then, Ted, can you have prepped the minutes from the September 30th? Do we have a copy of those?
We do. I have them on my screen.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind sharing those. So if you zoom in a little bit, so the board, these were the comments from the consent meeting back in September, that the board supports the update to the finished home and wanted the digital material boards, which you provided. The board recommended a landscape architect, and which you did. Applicant to provide aesthetic for the new entry, which you did. Applicant to provide a site plan of the neighboring houses, which you did. Okay, thank you. So we'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular project. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will turn our attention to virtual attendance. And at this time, I have no hands raised for virtual attendance. And we will move on to correspondence, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this particular project. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, thank you. We will start with questions from the board. Are there any questions?
I guess I'm trying to understand the project. I mean, you kind of went into the comment, responses to the comments, but it says one-story addition, two-story additions, decks. I never saw any photos. I don't know what the house looks like. I'm just kind of confused.
Thanks. I'm sliding through mine here, but you're right. If you slide down, it looks like the existing home was damaged in a fire, or it just hasn't been occupied, or what?
Yeah, it was purchased prior to 2015 by
Okay.
the current owner.
Okay.
The building was left in disrepair, so he
Okay.
wanted to remodel it.
Okay.
He started the remodel. We got permits. Looking at the site plan, we're enclosing this porch area,
I saw that.
and we're adding this little square footage because the house had no connection between the first and the second floor. So we're adding this staircase to go down below, and that's where we have the addition. So this is the addition. Here's the enclosed front porch with the new front door. And then on the downstairs, here's the added square footage, so that when we come down the stairs, we have the required landing. As far as the decks, this is the existing first floor deck, and then on the second floor, the deck was cantilevered to this point, and it was in very bad shape. So what we're doing is we're going out to the edge of the lower deck and supporting the deck on columns. Sorry.
Elevations, again, would really help to describe your scope.
Sure. So this is the side elevation. So this is the deck. So here's the existing deck, and then the existing cantilever deck went to here. So this is the new portion of the deck. So we've got wall and or columns and extending the deck. So it's instead of a cantilever, it's supported. Here's the here's the elevation. This is the area that got popped out, and then this is the new railing and the deck. And it's hatched over, you know, to show what areas were added.
And I think if you scroll down to the very bottom, and we'll pass these along to the site photos just for board member Sherry to quickly
I'd like to see
take a
the
look
site
at.
photos. That's the main
And,
thing.
and these, yeah, these were the original 2015. The new current photos just show it just kind of taken apart, you know, with the roofing material off and.
And there's an as-built deck too? I saw it on your plans, it said as-built deck.
Yes, it was always there from when we started the construction. It's actually shown in some of the pictures. I can point it out if you'd like.
You have them at the end of your PDF. If you keep going down, the photos are added there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry. So it's this deck that's adjacent to the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, here's the pile of shingles or tiles that, you know, when they left it halfway done. This is a picture of the oak tree branch that just kind of grows horizontally, you know, in line with the deck, and then it goes all the way up into the building. So
Okay.
this is the branch that we needed to trim so that you know, it doesn't.
So I think that's
interfere with the
helpful.
building.
I think Board Member Sherry, just so you're aware, you know, from the site, it's quite far from all the neighbors and not visible from the street. And it sounds like the scope is keeping all the materials to match the existing, a simple expansion of the rear patio, just a few feet, but matching all the same conditions. There's not major changes to it. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I have one question. On the north elevation, if you go to your sheet number 5. What page is this?
Yes.
So the parts that are hatched is the added
Revisions,
parts.
correct. Mhm.
So it's,
The 45 degree.
yes, so this part that has 3 new windows, is this the part that is like the enclosed porch?
Yes, that's the stairs.
That's the stairs. Oh, I see. That was my question.
Okay. I think it's pretty simple. I think it's received approval in the past. I don't have any concerns, and I think that it's fine to receive PDA and final. Any other thoughts from the board? Okay. I appreciate you going through the process here, and I'm glad they were able to get you on full board, so you didn't have to wait. I move to approve this project for project design approval and final approval.
I'll second that.
The proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood. The proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood in its size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the site and neighborhood, as it is mostly remaining the same, both in materials and size. The proposed buildings and structures are designed with quality architectural details to match the existing residence. The proposed materials and colors maintain the natural appearance of the ridgeline or hillside. No trees are proposed to be removed. However, as the arborist report states, one of the tree limbs will be removed for remediation. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected and preserved. The project generally complies with good neighbor guidelines regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting. The development, including proposed structures and grading, preserves significant public scenic views of and from the hillside. The development including the proposed structures and grading is appropriate to the site, is developed to avoid visible scarring, and does not significantly modify the natural topography of the site or natural appearance of any ridgeline or hillside. No major changes to topography are proposed. The development maintains a scale and form that blends with the hillside by minimizing the visual appearance of structures and the overall height of structures. And we do already have a second with Board Member Graffiti.
Okay, Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslahy,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and did you want to announce, there's a 10-day appeal process. Ted, did you have anything else to add?
Instructions are on
There you
screen.
go. Perfect, easy. Okay, thank you. Our last item here tonight is 1322 Dover Road, here for final approval. This is a proposal for a new two-story, 4,628 square foot home on a nearly vacant lot with a breezeway and attached 520 square foot two-car garage. A 537 square foot covered patio, balcony, and breezeway are also proposed. The previous home was demolished after fire damage, and existing utilities remain on site with a pool, foundation, and wall. A podocarpus and grouping of pepper trees are proposed for removal, with landscaping proposed throughout the property. Previous PLN cases were approved, but building permits were never issued under previous owners. The proposed 4,628 square feet on a 38,349 square foot lot is 94% of the maximum guideline floor area ratio. Final approval is requested, and the plans were last seen at the November 18th meeting, and that was for PDA. Can we pull up the comments at the last one? I believe they were project design approval with conditions, and that would be helpful to reference.
Will do.
Just because we don't have them here for you to reference back and forth. Okay, great, thank you.
So flat-footed, so can't prepare this stuff.
So we'll just quickly review them, and then that way, as a part of your presentation, you can go through them. So the first item was that the reveal around the windows be reduced to better match the precedent image shown during the meeting. That the corbels at the Juliet balconies be replaced with wrought iron brackets. That the Juliet door and balconies above the garage be centered above the garage, and that you consider centering the bathroom window above with the garage door. That the board and batten material of the breezeway be aligned to match the rhythm roughly as shown in the front elevation. So on basically on both sides of the breezeway to match. That the profile along the roof edge be simplified to mimic the inspiration image shown in the meeting. You can scroll down, I think there might be a few more. That the plaster corbels under the pool balcony be reduced in width and simplified in profile to better align with the inspiration image. That materials be shown for the hardscape materials and the edge of the paving as it beats the plaster. This is at the patio by the pool, or what was the pool, that it should extend past the plaster. The decorative grille above the pool balcony edge be lowered to provide more plaster space above. The board recommended but did not require adding divided lights at large windows and sliding doors. That the front entry door plaster be increased to no less than 9 inches. That the board recommended larger plantings, if possible, to be planted to help reduce the amount of plaster under the living room wall and window area. The board recommended but did not require planting replacement trees for the ones being removed. That elevations of the outdoor kitchen be provided. That the kitchen be of a similar architectural style to the house. That the elevation or an inspiration for the water feature be provided. If any capping at the low site walls is different than the hardscape proposed, to include a material sample. add dimensions of the width of the weep screed detail for how far the plaster protrudes, and to increase the quantity of panels on the garage doors to help with the proportions. So, there you go. Okay, so you have 15 minutes to present.
Sure.
If you don't mind stating your name for the record.
Absolutely. Glenn Longarini, I'm the owner and the applicant.
Chris Gilliland, landscape architect.
So I'll just go through those first few items there. The first one dealt with the reveals around the windows. So the elevation has now been changed to better show a minimal, mouse wheel's not a zoom.
It's a touch
so-
screen if like
Oh, should learn that from the last applicant. I think I heard that. So it shows it now reduced. There is also a detail that defines it and details it. It's a 2-inch reveal now, which is the waterproofing company's recommendation. So it's tightened up quite a bit from how it was detailed before. Juliet balconies, we've eliminated that plaster corbel. It's now a full metal fabricated Juliet balcony. This sheet is it in elevation view, and there you can see it in the lower left side, the right side elevation, the approximate detail. The bathroom window, the balcony and the bathroom window suggestions, we accommodated that. As you can see, the bathroom window is now centered over this door, and the balcony is centered over the other door. Rear breezeway, we flip to that rear elevation. We revised that to, sheet 4.1. Dang it.
Oh, there we go at the top.
There we go, thanks. So it roughly mimics the front elevation. The eave detail has been simplified and had more of a, I think your comment was, it showed more supporting. So it's a double, how's it, let me get to that detail, 7.6.0. Yeah, spacing on what the heck is it? There's the window on.
Number 7.
What do I have? Oh, there we go. Yeah, thanks. So the plastic corbels, get back to the elevation. The plaster corbels, not plastic, have now been reduced. They were 2'6" in width, and now they're a 1'6", a full foot. I think it does look a lot more proportional. I'm going to skip 7 and punt it to Chris when we get to a bulk of the landscape ones. The decorative vent at the gable has now been lowered. The slider, I'd like to keep that undivided, but we clearly showed the divisions on the other big windows. The front door is now, I believe we even have a dimension on there to show that minimum dimension. Yes, minimum 9-inch for the tile bedding. The number 11 there, that's going to be you, Chris. You want to go back and do 7, the pool deck edge. And I'll get to your sheets here. Oh. Yeah, thanks for keeping me on track there. So on the weep screed, we did lower the weep screed in the elevation, and it's now shown on 2.6.0, which now just shows a code 8 inches above the slab to grade. Let me see if I can zoom in. And so then the reveal portion of it, you can see the screeds dropped. So the reveal dimension, which I think was the one that we were concerned with, to hardscape, that dashed line's hardscape, 2 inches to hardscape or paving and 4 inches to grade. Garage doors, we took the suggestion and made it a 3-panel. It's just a single door, so the 4 panels weren't exactly what I was looking for, but yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. Now to you,
Okay.
Chris.
Great, thank you, Glenn. Madam Chair, board members, item number 7, the pool deck edge condition is further articulated on L 1.0.
Hold, please. There we go.
So they're on the middle right side of the page. Just kind of shows that we're wrapping flagstone over the top with a thickened edge, so it's at least 2 inches. And then plaster down to grade. Item number 11, go to the planting plan, L 3.0.
1 second.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, so there were a couple comments, and the main, the gist is right there in front of the house. So the planting plan was revised to replace the salt bush. I had one Atriplex, and unknowingly it was a ground cover, and I meant to use a larger shrub. So this is a quail bush instead of salt bush, as you all know. And so that will help to fill in those areas and sort of screen out the foundation.
We also slid them a little bit.
Yeah, we did sort of, push them a little bit to the west also. And beyond that, those get to be about 10 feet wide and 8 feet tall, but easily kept smaller if necessary. Also on the same plan, this area includes the agave blue flame, sort of tucked into that upper left corner, which get to be 4 to 5 feet, and then there's a leucadendron safari sunset. It's a larger shrub. That's the single shrub where it says 3.03, and that'll get to be 8 feet or so. And there was some question about new trees and the existing eucalyptus that are down on the hillside. We're not proposing any change. No new trees are being added. And item 13 and 14, the outdoor kitchen shown in more detail with finishes on L 1.0 again. I think that's just an inspiration image, if I recall. There we go. So, there it is. Barbecue area, quartz counter, beige with stucco to match residence, and a nice little tile detail, which will match the fountain. That was also requested for additional information, which is, if we slide, you can see it there on the left. So nice tile detail with some spouts, copper, not exactly what you see there, but it's pretty close. And lastly, the cap for the low wall, also on L1. Let's see, we got the permeable pavers. Oh, yes. So, a prefab concrete cap, white, to kind of match the stucco. And then we also have depicted on the elevation sheet, which you have seen a few times from Glenn. So that was it for the landscape comments.
And I believe that's the end of the list.
Okay, great. We will open up to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and do so. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will turn our attention to virtual comment. And at this time, we do not have any hands raised for virtual comment, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this project. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Great. This is more of a comment / question. Well, I wonder, do you have the previous elevations, Ted? I just wanted to point out the intent for the comment with the plaster and the tile work around the front door was just from the side to the edge. Not that the tiling needed to be spaced out that much. So I would still recommend that the 6-inch tile, but I think it might be helpful to look at what might have been there that Ted will pull up and find somewhere where you see the elevation of the front door. Ted, let's see, no. That one. Okay, so if you zoom in there, and the goal was just to make sure that you had enough space on both sides. So I think your sizing that you're showing is fine, but still have your tile work be spaced well is kind of my comment. If there's any other.
Yeah, that was one of my
questions,
questions.
but, okay.
I thought the tile was too close to the edge of the wall, and I didn't understand the minutes. And is the area between the tile and the door a bevel?
It is.
Okay, then I would suggest decreasing the bevel angle and bringing the tile in toward the door so that you have a minimum. I think what was meant by that comment was that there should be a minimum of 9 inches between the edge of the corner to the tile.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Misunderstood. I
Yes.
see. The edge of the building there, yeah. I
Right.
see that dimension.
Right.
Okay.
But if that's a 9-inch tile, that looks like 9 inches.
The tile is spec'd as 6-inch, so,
We could maybe make it more than that, that door.
no, I think what might help visually is having the tile at 6 or 4 so that we see enough plaster around it and the tile's not right on the corner is the goal. But, I mean, that won't be visible from the street. I just think that will be a good design for you. So, okay. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question, comment. On the front elevation, I'm looking at the old 3Ds that you guys had. I don't know if I can't remember if I asked this question before or not, because these are old and it hasn't updated to the elevations. So under the breezeway, the material that is proposed with the ceiling of the balcony, are these the same materials and it's just like not looking the same in the renders, or?
Do you mean the iron? Or
No.
No, underneath the breezeway. Will you go to the breezeway?
Yes.
What's the material there?
It's the material.
That's just a fill, we actually haven't specified it. I mean, it has to be fireproof. My off the cuff would probably be, a ceramic tile, because I don't really want to introduce any more wood, for flammability reasons. So it might be something that mimics a wood, but that's made out of ceramic.
I think like that because the project is on a topography and it's the street
You'll
view.
see the underside.
So it might be good to have it on the material palette with everything else. I don't think there's anything there. So-
Well, what they do have here, and I think that because we're here for final, it's to match the PDA.
PDA.
What they have noted in the color palette is that the breezeway should be painted over, and they've got this bronze color, so our recommendation would be that the underside to match the breezeway.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Which is at least what's noted here, so.
And
okay.
then what about the ceiling of that balcony?
That one's already been approved as shown, isn't? Yeah.
Have they specified anywhere?
That was your wood on the balcony
The
by
balcony,
the pool?
ceiling?
Your porch patio?
Oh, I thought that's, so
Go to your perspective again.
where you have the arrow right now?
Yes, where the arrow is right now.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning, is it would probably be some sort of a ceramic,
Okay.
like a wood mimicked ceramic.
I mean, like a porcelain wood grain looking tile?
Probably.
Supplied to
I
the
mean,
ceiling?
Honestly, we haven't really thought that much about it. Initially, we were just going to do a plaster wrap, but,
Yeah, because plaster is what's
it-
called out on the material board for everything on the exterior.
Is it? Okay. He shows that fill in there. I didn't, it's probably causing more concern than not. I think we could probably state for this meeting that would be wrap plaster. That's the easiest thing for me to do.
Look the
Just
cleanest.
to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so what,
specify that on that motion.
right, what we'll specify is that all the sides of the breezeway are to be the same color finish, and that the exposed ceiling be plaster to match what was
Yep.
on the material board. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I had a question. So on the back side of that breezeway, if we can see that in plan, is that breezeway running in plane with the structure on the, I guess it would be the
front
right-hand
mass?
side?
It jogs out.
On the back side as well?
On the back side, are those
Oh, in the back?
flush? Mm-hmm.
Let me just use this.
Next to your bedroom?
Oh, sorry, you mean the Juliet balcony?
No, the breezeway that connects
Oh, yes,
between,
yes. Okay.
So,
At the
yes.
rear, it's on plane, yep, it's the same mass. And then the front jogs in by 2 feet.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments?
I had a few,
Okay.
just, I think just I mean, I think the project's ready for final approval. I just think that there's some areas where the detailing just isn't quite there, and if I could offer a few tidbits of advice that might help. You are missing a weep screed on a portion of the, you're showing it on some parts of the house, but you're missing it graphically on some of the elevations. I don't know if this was a comment that was made in the last meeting. I think I missed that meeting, but that the corbel detail where you have at the covered balcony, there's 2 arches. There's 3 corbels and 2 arches. If you go back to that elevation.
Sure.
I just wanted to look at that proportion.
Yeah, and Ted, on the screen, will you pull up what was previous for that elevation while we look on these screens?
Yeah,
For
that,
Oh,
this?
sorry,
it's like,
board member Sherry, let me go. Oh, I'm having a little technical problem.
yeah, right
This is the
there.
new.
To me, it looks like, and this is a nitpicky thing, but it looks like there's just almost not enough plaster at the top of the arc.
Yeah, holding it up.
It needs to, like, those corbels could be lowered a little bit, but I understand that you're working with existing grade. For some reason, it looks squeezed.
Yeah, we're a little bit pinched on that right grade, but structurally, I do have, my retaining wall now clears a bit of that more.
Okay. It just,
I
to
do
me,
have
it
that,
just
so I
looks.
just got the structural back.
It's,
We
you
could
know,
drop
again,
it
these are
down
like little
another-
nitpicky things. Another one on this elevation is, you've got a long span for your Juliet balcony, and it's extending out beyond the building enough to where somebody could step on it. And if you're doing like a basket weave, it's too long of a span, and you're gonna want at least one more corbel supporting that. Like, it just wouldn't work structurally. So you probably just didn't notice that yet, that when you get there, you're gonna want a couple more
need to beef it up.
corbels. And, on that, and then that, just kind of look at those kind of details. Yeah. I mean, otherwise, I think.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't quite understand the trim around the garage doors. Like, nowhere else is trim. It's supposed to be a bullnose in.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of how it's detailing out. It should
so where
not-
is that detail on that? The trim around the garage doors, like, what is that made out of?
Yeah, it should not be a trim. It just, he's trying to show the the garage door case, and then the 2-inch reveal before the plaster comes back and returns.
That's like
Same-
recessed behind the bullnose
Okay, good.
of
Yeah.
As long
whatever
as all the
yeah.
doors and windows are
Yeah.
bullnosed, then
Yes.
that's the important
Yeah.
part, yeah.
It's just
That's
not,
it.
yeah, it's not showing.
Any other comments? Okay. I agree. I think you've come a long way. I hope it wasn't too painful of a process, but I do think where you've landed is more authentic and something that I hope that you really
Agreed.
enjoy. And I do agree that you're ready for final, and I might just include these comments so that you have them in them. So I move to approve this project for final approval as the plans substantially conform to the drawings and comments that received project design approval. The board has the following recommendations to the applicant. That the underside of the breezeway be painted to match the elevations of the breezeway. That the underside of the patio on the front elevation be painted to match the exterior plaster. That weep screeds be added on any missing elevations. That the archways at the corbels underneath the balcony on the front elevation could be moved down in elevation to create a thicker top at the top of the arch. That a center support may be needed at the Juliet balconies. And that in style should match the other corbels. That bold nose edges be consistent at all openings. Do I have a second? Did I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes?
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
board members, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this project has a 10-day appeal period. Instructions are on screen.
Sitting.
As a reminder, our fifth item on the agenda has been postponed indefinitely. So that ends our full board meeting for January 13th.